In March 2018, we opened our doors to the public with a vision not just to create challenging professional theatre, but to use this as a platform to inspire and bring communities together. Theatre and culture build identity. With theatre and culture in our local life, the community landscape is more vibrant. Local life is enriched. We believe that the benefits of theatre should be available for everyone. Our Theatre for All programme has removed financial barriers, giving disadvantaged people access to the theatre free of charge.
So we were told that we'd come here and have a Christmas meal and then go and watch A Christmas Carol.
Our aim is to make live professional theatre available to everyone and use that experience for positive change. Theatre can be transformational in young lives. Our academy is now in its 4th year, and we continue to build on our vision of bringing the best performing arts tuition to the heart of the Cotswolds. We work hard to make our academy as inclusive and as accessible as possible. Discounts apply for parents with more than one child. Our bursaries help support talented children from less affluent backgrounds. The Academy creates a fun and challenging environment where children can build friendships and develop key skills not just for theatre, but for life. We are also able to provide real opportunities for students who wish to pursue careers in the arts.
My name is Harry Apps. I am currently playing Marius in Les Miserables in the West End.
Barn outreach and learning programs engage with thousands of people. Our free workshops support the drama curriculum in local schools. Singing and musical theatre workshops in community groups and care homes have helped address issues of isolation. Our Song for Cirencester project in aid of mental health charities brought our community together in an unprecedented way. We've collaborated with many charities in the region, including the Churn Project, to support individuals dealing with the barriers to finding work.
Since working with you, my life's changed. It's given me some purpose, given me an interest, some confidence I was lacking prior to all this.
The Barn Theatre played a pivotal role in the town's 2018 World War I centenary celebrations. Who could forget our record-breaking Human Poppy? Our live streaming work on the annual Advent Festival helped thousands engage and take part in Cirencester's Christmas festivities. In these times of uncertainty, we strive to keep the community together. The theatre may be temporarily closed, but our commitment to you goes on. Even now, our amazing costume department are helping the NHS by making scrubs for frontline workers. We've used our technology to build a free live streaming service that provides much needed community news and entertainment for all the family. Broadcasting every day to keep us all connected. We are not just a theatre. We are the Barn.
It's Friday and a whoopsie diddly dino. I gotta say that, I love saying that. It's even put a smile on Guy's face there this morning. How much more fun is it doing things with people again? Even boring Guy in the background there has brought a smile to my face today. Anyway, it's Friday, it's the end of the week. What have you been up to? What have you learned? What have you done that's new? I'd love to know. So hit me up, let me know how your week's been. And it's the weekend. We all love the weekend. So if you haven't listened to it, fantastic opportunity to catch up with last night's cool conversations with the legendary American climber Conrad. I loved it. I hope you guys did. Let me know how it was for you listening to it. And if you haven't listened to it, catch up with it this weekend on all the standard socials. But for now, it's Friday. Have a great day, guys, and we see you tomorrow. It's Monday morning, it's the 1st of June. How did that happen? Where's the year gone? But it is Monday, so let's say hell yeah! Are you ready for the week ahead? You got your plan ready? Remember talking about plans all those weeks ago? Well, my plan this week is pretty simple really, it's one word, reflection. We're halfway through the year, and I'm gonna use this week to give myself some space to sort of think up here and reflect on what's happened and what hasn't happened. So that's going to be my plan this week. Love to know what yours is. Got the Get It Done t-shirt on today. We all know what happens next. We're in it together. We'll get it done together. It's Monday. Make it count. It's Tuesday morning. Let's give it a hell yeah. I mean, why not give it a hell yeah? It's Tuesday. Yeah, we gave it a hell yeah Monday, let's do a hell yeah Tuesday and perhaps even on Wednesday. Look at that, there's a bull in the field. And we don't mean Guy. Where was my finger? We don't mean Guy, just behind Guy there. Guy thinks he's a bull, but there's a bull sign. Now, running with Guy this morning, he's ginger. Shouldn't hold that against him. But it does make me think a little bit about our cool conversations guest this week. He's also a runner, he's also a cyclist, and he's also a swimmer. And he's also ginger. Yeah, and like Guy, he's a good buddy of mine. Now, we're going to drop who it is later today, but I thought I'd give you a little tease right now to see how many of you can guess who it might be. And before anybody say it's Guy, it's not Guy, but perhaps it should be. Guy's probably more funny. Anyway, it's Tuesday, have fun, let's get it done. Wednesday morning run done. Just in time as well, it's the beginning of the rain. Now it's Wednesday. I don't know what you guys are like, but I'm really bad sometimes at being distracted. I'm like a squirrel. Something comes into my proximity, I'm like, oh, what's that? I head over there. And Wednesday is one of those days of the week for me that happens. Now, many of us are still time positive right now. Time and focus being two precious resources that we have. So it's all about trying to stay focused, and that's going to be on my agenda today. Stay focused, try to avoid the squirrel moment, and try and see it through to the end of the week. That's what I'm doing today. That's my focus. So remember, we're in this together. We'll get it done together. I got the run done this morning just in time. It's drippy droppy with the rain now. Well, yeah, sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes it's hard to get out of bed, put the trainers on and go for the run. And today's definitely one of those days. Not even Otis here was that keen on going out this morning. But we went out, it wasn't a groundbreaking run, but we're keeping the habit going, and we've got it done. I suppose that's the important thing. And as I was running around, I was just thinking, I wonder who else out there is like me. And when you get trusted stuff that you like to use, you can't quite bring yourself to get rid of them. My trainers are knackered. I got a new pair at home. I need to swap them over, but I love these trainers. Anyway, just wanted to say, good luck today. We're in it together. We'll get it done together.
My mate Kenton has done some extraordinary things in his life, and he's pretty hilarious as well.
We're going to talk about climbing, we're going to talk about sports, hot topics, and we're going to merge all that together for an entertaining 30 minutes. Well, everybody, it's Thursday. It's 1800, 6 o'clock to the youth out there. It can only mean one thing. And the fact that you're tuned in means that you know what it is, of course, Cool Conversations. And this is one, this is an episode, and we have a guest who always makes me laugh. He really does. I love hooking up with this dude, and I am privileged and honoured to call him a friend. I've known him for a number of years. I've been stuck in a Land Rover on the M5 trying to get to the Lake District with him. This is the guy who sold his company for £1 and then spent 4 times that getting the pound engraved or mounted to put on his wall. He then decided to cycle around the world. He cycled Land's End John O'Groats. He then decided to swim Land's End John O'Groats. And then just for the giggle, he then ran Land's End John O'Groats. Now, for many of us, that would be enough. But not for this gloriously eccentric adventurer. Oh, no, no, no. He then's done the world's longest triathlon, 4,200 miles around the coastline of the UK. And then, if that's not enough, he holds a world record, speed record, for cycling across Europe. This guy is beyond mad, for want of a better word. He loves nothing more than a good pizza and lasagna in the pub on a recovery day. He loves his Guinness. He's a funny all-round guy. He's none other than the hipster of adventure, Sean Conway.
Kenton, how are you, my man?
Hey, Sean.
I'm full hipster today. I got a proper haircut.
I noticed that. Now, I've been spending a week growing my beard just so I would fit in. You can tell, can't you? A whole week.
Yeah. It looks like a year's growth.
I spent 10 weeks not cutting my hair so I could look a little bit like you, and then you've gone and cut your hair.
Yeah, times are serious here in Wales.
Did you do it yourself?
Full lockdown, so yeah.
Did you do your hair yourself?
2 mirrors and my dog grooming clippers. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it looks like on the back, but I can't see it, so it doesn't matter.
So turn around and give us a look. What does it look like? Yeah, you've done a pretty good job, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
That's pretty good. So, Sean, tell me. Now, many of the viewers probably know a little bit about you. How would you describe yourself?
I get lumped in, and I guess you do too, in the world of adventurer type thing. And you're more mountaineer, of course, but we all kind of get grouped into this big category. Whereas I sort of see myself a little bit more as sort of a endurance athlete in the world of adventure, I guess. So I basically have spent the last 10 years trying to chase the 3 Fs of endurance in the world of ultra endurance sport: world's firsts, world's furthest, and world's fastest. So in a way, I'm kind of a non-professional sportsman who has to think of my own events and then win at them, basically.
So hang on, you think of your own events and then win at them. But you do pretty much everything solo. So when you win at them, you're actually racing yourself.
Pretty much, yeah. Unless for world's firsts usually and world's furthests, you're kind of thinking of your own thing, or maybe just trying to one up someone else with slightly different route, for example. Like the world's longest triathlon, that was held by a woman in Mexico, I believe. So, doing mine in Britain was a whole complete new thing, really. But it's a fine line, because you know what it's like. If you make it too easy, everyone's like, oh, that's just a holiday. And if you make it too difficult, no one wants to back the project and get behind it. So they go, no, you're going to die. We're going to just leave you out there. So,
but I'm trying to get my head around that you end up racing yourself. You do, and we're going to touch upon this in a minute. You do everything pretty much on your own, don't you? So all your Land's End to John O'Groats, whichever way you did it all on your own. The triathlon you did on your own. Obviously the cycle race speed records you've done on your own. So What happens when you don't win? Because you're only racing yourself. How does that feel?
Well, I mean, and I've not won before. Remember when I tried the Europe first time round, you sent me a picture of Bertie, was it?
Oh yeah, my ruptured quad muscle.
Yeah. That made me quit for sure. Thanks for that. Yeah, I am racing myself, but often I'm also racing another world record. So for the Europe ride, I actually was trying to beat the previous world record holder, Jonas Deichmann, this German guy. And he had, well, what I thought would be a cool idea is I had his tracking data on my website. So we were like almost like racing each other. And because we were on slightly different sleep strategies.
Was he racing at the same time? Or were you?
No, he had done it a year before, but I had his tracking data sort of live on my website. So it was as if I was racing him. And I mean, I thought that was cool, but then at the end, it just landed up really like playing with my head because I was kind of in a race position because I was doing monster days, like, 250 miles, sleeping in a bush and waking up, and he'd be like 80 miles ahead of me. And I'm like, what? Like, how is this possible, So, yes, I am on my own and I'm doing it self-supported, except the swim. When I swam Britain, obviously I had a boat for that. But I am sort of the back of my head trying to chase some sort of record, really, which usually someone else has set often many, many years before me, because the records I kind of go for are so kind of niche and
a little bit I can't even say the word. A little bit eccentric. Esoteric. That's the word. Esoteric. Anyway, yeah, you get what I'm trying to say. I got tongue-tied there.
Yeah, I mean, because again, my whole thing is I just want to live a unique and interesting life, and that's basically what fuels me going for these records. Like, they have to be a bit unique, they have to be interesting, and you just want a cool pub story for when you're an old man. That's basically it, really.
Well, I think that's what it's all about. It's all about every time we meet up, we have fun. We don't see one another that regularly, but every now and then we sort of come together and we generally sneak off and do our own thing a little bit.
Yeah.
Which normally involves a beer or two, or maybe a game of pool. And I'm always left with the impression that you are enjoying life. And I get the impression from reading your books as well, that you do these things because there is a sense of fun behind the challenge or the world record that you're gunning for.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to make it a little bit fun. I try and take the challenge seriously, but I try and not take myself too seriously within it. Because I think if you don't take the challenge seriously, you're going to fail or get injured. Like when you do Everest, you take Everest as a mountain very seriously. But you yourself, you're not super serious. You don't take yourself too seriously. And I think that's a fine balance. Oh,
I said only when I'm around you.
Oh yeah. Well, we got to balance each other out,
Oh, right, yeah, totally. So I do think, or you once told me, I am the only person to have read all your books. What do you got? You got 5 books now, or 6 books? How many books have you written?
5 we talk about.
Okay, 5 we talk about. So that's actually 6. And I found them super entertaining. I would be reading it and I would find myself laughing out loud. I honestly, Sean, I think they're brilliant. So the viewers or listeners, if you've not read some of Sean's books, pick up 1 or 2. They are a very light-hearted read. But I think at the same time, there's some really cool messages in there. Especially in the current sort of situation that we find ourselves in. Messages about dreaming, about initiating those dreams to become reality. Is that the idea that you had before you set out to write the books? Or were the books a chronology of the adventure?
So weirdly, I didn't sort of set out. When I first started writing, I actually had no intention of even publishing it mainstream. So I'd finished cycling around the world and I was like, do I do another book about someone cycling around the world? There's loads of them out there. And then Dave Cornthwaite said to me, mate, don't don't do it for sales, don't do it for publishing, do it for your future grandkids, so they have some sort of memoir of your experience. Because, like, you know what it's like, our grandparents had these phenomenal lives back at the beginning of last century, but like it's all gone. Like, because my grandparents, they've all sadly died. They didn't have journals, they didn't, take many photos, there's no photo albums of them. And I'm just gutted that I don't have something to like read about their lives, no matter what it was. So that's why I started writing, and then actually kind of enjoyed the format of a book. I enjoy sort of creating a book as opposed to writing blogs, for example, because I could have done that. I could have divided my whole round the world bike ride into blog format or website format, but actually I enjoyed the process of doing an actual book. And then when I enjoy the process, I kind of get out of it more than I would from sales. You know what it's like, writing it actually fulfills me, more than anything. Whether it sells or not, I'm actually not that bothered. I mean, I'm luckily that people seem to enjoy my book, so that's an added bonus. But
I think they're hilarious. I honestly love your book. I love the honest style of writing, and anything that makes me chuckle gets my vote. I think they're brilliant, Sean. I really do.
Yeah. No, I enjoy writing them, so I'm going to keep going.
And you self-publish, don't you?
I've been published. I've been a mixture. So I was at Penguin Random House for a couple. I've self-published a couple, and then I've gone with a small independent publisher as well. Each to their own. Like, the nice thing about using a small independent or self-publishing is you can kind of change things. You can, if you wanted to, you could add a whole chapter later on. It's been 8 years since I cycled around the world. I mean, that one was published by Random House. But if I wanted to, if I had self-published that, I could have done a postscript now, sort of 10 years on, and just added it to the book.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And I think, having that flexibility and creativity as a sort of small independent author is great. And also, if you wanted to get techie into the whole sales side of things, you can offer discounted pricing if you want. I don't do that, but I know some people that around Christmas, they'll drop the price of the book, which, inevitably, if you were the big publisher, you'll never get that through the paperwork, to be honest.
Absolutely.
But I kind of enjoy all aspects of it, to be honest.
So I've done a little bit of research, which I know is unusual for me, but I've done a little bit of research on this, and I couldn't remember how many books that you had written. So I went online and I actually found a book by a guy called Sean Conway, and it's called Land's End. And it's a novel. And I found this really spooky, to the point that I delved into it. And it's a novel about two children whose father comes to pick them up from school in a beat-up ice cream van, and they go on an adventure up to Scotland. And in the back of the ice cream van, it's a chopped-up remains of their father's mate in the ice cream thing. And it's totally out there wacky book by Sean Conway, and it's called Land's End.
No.
It struck me that all of a sudden, and it was published during lockdown, and I was curious if you've been writing on the sly and you've come up with a novel, because it's so out there that I think it could be a novel written by yourself.
Oh man, I'm gutted I haven't written that novel now. Damn it!
It sounds
That's genius. I'm going to search it.
I'm going to order one when I get home just to see what it's like. Now, I'm going to be really selfish with all the viewers here, because there's certain things that we know one another quite well, but there's certain things I like to know. And I've got into running over the last 18 months, 2 years. And during lockdown, I've been running a lot. And I'm a little bit older than you are. I'm beginning to feel the toil on my knees and joints, etc., etc. You do a lot of running. I definitely put you into the endurance athlete category. Any secret hints and tips to keep the body, or my aging body, in one piece?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I should probably preface that actually out of the three disciplines, running is the one that I've probably done the least of. I've actually only done 3 runs. One's been 1,000 miles, one's been 800 miles, and then the London Marathon.
Yeah, but there's running and there's running. There's doing a local 5K, and then, as you say, I ran 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
So let's keep things into perspective here. You definitely are an endurance running athlete.
I have done, yeah. I mean, I do run a lot. I'm running more now, actually, because I find it a little bit easier to do with a young son. You know, he's 11 months old, and I can just quickly put on the shoes, and there's no sort of rigmarole. But I'm weirdly, I'm 38. No, I'm 39. I'm 39 now. I'm starting to feel the aches and pains, and it's only happened in the last sort of 6 months to a year, creeping in. And yeah, I you know, you try and put it off. You think, you know, it's not going to happen to me. I'm superhuman, you know. But no, it's definitely happening. Stretching is, for me, I find the only way really to get over it. And hydration as well. I think most of us are mostly dehydrated generally in life. I think I certainly need a lot of salt. A lot of people need more salt than is recommended. Obviously, you should go and get a salt test, and too much salt can be bad for you, they say. For me, I need loads of salt in my diet, and I need to drink loads of water. And I find that helps my joints. But stretching, and it doesn't have to be a lot of stretching, you know, just sort of these mobilization stretches, depending on what hurts and that sort of thing. You can take joint supplements as well, glucosamine and chondroitin. Yeah, they say you should help. That kind of helps. I don't know. I take it now and then if I'm doing some big miles. Like at the moment, I'm running. This week I'll do 100K this week, so it's good. I'm feeling good. I'm not smashing it, but I'm feeling good.
Well, I mean, but that's still quite a long way. I mean, that's about double my weekly average. So yeah, I mean, that's not an insignificant amount.
No, it's a good slog. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to look after yourself on the back of that. And I mean, how long would that take me? How many hours a week would you be out training?
So at the moment, I'm sort of doing about 2 hours a day. Yesterday, I did 3.5 hours. I did, well, it was nearly 8 o'clock at night until about 10:30, because it's still light, so it's quite nice. And I just went out and ran in the hills. But I do about 2 hours, I reckon, a day. And that I run pretty slow. I do about 16K in an hour 50. And then I stop a bit. And, you know, I'm not just like pushing because I like to do a bit of off-road, a bit of on-road. At the moment, I'm training mainly on the road. I've got a project that needs me to be a bit more road fit with my ankles.
Right, well, that's quite interesting. Well, there is a significant, because I do all mine off-road, and there is a significant difference. And one of the reasons why I train off-road was, I mean, as you know, and some of the listeners, viewers know, I mean, I got smashed up ankles. I got quite a lot of metalwork, and I find that the road has a significant detrimental effect to my knees and my lower back. I get pounded by the road. So it's interesting that you mix it up, and you're predominantly, you say, on the road now.
So the reason I'm on the road now is my technique off-road is very good when I run. I'm more aware of the ground. I'm looking around. I'm more springy. You know, I'm running sort of nicely on the sort of balls of my feet. I'm using your natural elasticity, right? When you go out and run tomorrow, run normally like you would, and then you can change your style by keep your elbows in, have your arms like this, and push like that, and then try and bounce off your toes. And it's amazing how you'll feel all of a sudden you're going kind of the same speed, but with less energy. And what you're using the natural kinetic energy within all your hard tissue. So you're not actually just using your soft tissue. You're like using your muscles to get you up the hill. You're using that natural spring. And I tend to have a natural spring when I do trails because, you know, you're on your toes and you're bouncing left and right and you're a bit more motivated because you're excited and it's a bit more fun. Whereas in the road, I find I get a bit lazy, you know, and then my technique goes down and then I'm heel striking more and I'm just slogging it and my shoulders are down because it's a bit more dull, right? Because you're not really looking around. So for me, to sort of work on that springiness on the road really nails my technique down. Just I get really honed into it. And it doesn't always happen. You know, I'll do it for like 20 minutes and then all of a sudden I'll feel like I'm just like, ugh, and I'm dying. And it's kind of a motivation. Like if I can kind of get my technique well when it's boring and flat, well, not flat, but just flat surface, then I know my technique's going to be always good. So that's kind of why at the moment, I'm just trying to practice.
And you mentioned that you're training for a project. Is this anything that's, or is this top secret? I mean, what's I know that the adventure world sometimes is a little bit secret squirrel. Can we have another? We're really lucky on this show. We keep getting, what's the word? Yeah, exactly. So Nim's first said that he's got his book coming out on this show. I mean, are you in a position to let the world know what you're doing, or is it still under?
You know what? If COVID hadn't come, I was going to announce this week.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Yeah,
because
I was going to leave in 3 weeks.
I actually know what it is. I mean, you have told me a little while ago, so I know what it is. But I'm just curious. Are you keeping it under wraps until next year?
No, I have to. I've had to delay it until October now. And even then, I don't know whether it's going to happen or not. So so it's
well, I mean,
it's really annoying.
Definitely watch this space. I know what it is, and I think it's really cool. I'm glad it's not me doing it, but I do think it's cool. Yeah,
it's annoying though, because I'd ramped up all my training like a month ago, ready to leave at the end of this month, and then I've had to push it back 3 months. So now I'm like back down, and so I've kind of done nothing for the last month when I pushed it forward, and now this week again I'm ramping up my mileage to about 100k a week, which I'll probably stay that for a while.
Because there's quite a lot of debate, isn't there? Because I know some of my friends who have done big endurance things, be it rows or runs and cycles. There seem to be two trains of thought. One train is people that train beforehand and come into the event or the challenge sort of super fit and ready to go. And there's another camp who don't really subscribe to that so much and would come in to the challenge and kind of train on the challenge, so to speak, and they will find their mojo after the first week or 10 days of a big endurance challenge. It sounds like you're in the former. It sounds like you train quite specifically beforehand.
It depends what it is, and depends how long it is, and depends how many buffer days you have. There's 3 types of training that I do: power, endurance, and injury prevention. So those are the 3 training elements.
I mean, anybody would think you know what you're talking about these days. You don't seem to be the same Sean Conway that I last met about 6 months ago.
Going, just wing it.
Yeah.
No, you've got to train all 3. Now, some things that if you're not 100% robust in the injury prevention, you can be as fit as you want, or you're just going to get injured. And then also depends how long it is. This next thing I'm doing is super, super long. So I could hit the start line at about 70, 80%, and I probably would still survive. The downside of that is, one, you're always chasing your tail at the beginning, and there's like emotionally and psychologically, that's really tough. If from the word go, you're behind the record, because I'm going for another world record.
Oh, so there's a record on this one. I didn't realize that.
No, this is a full record. Okay. I mean, it's not an easy record, but I reckon I've got some leeway in it. I can have a couple of bad days. I could probably have a bad week and still claw it back if there's bad weather, if there's headwinds and stuff like that. But what you don't want to do is put yourself under unnecessary pressure by not training enough at the beginning. However, you also don't want to overtrain for 2 reasons. One, you don't want to get burnt out physically. You don't want to get burnt out mentally, because if you're just doing it all the time, by the time you get to the start line, you're like, oh my God, I couldn't be bothered with this, So there's a bit of a mixture. And so I very much like to be fully fit on the start line, but then within my training, I will leave little things like, for example, at the moment, I'm doing the same 16K loop. It's soul destroying, man. I'm like, I just want to die. Literally every day, same 16K. Because I know that if I can survive that every single day, then by the time I'm out doing what I'm doing, it's exciting and new, and it's I'm getting something from it.
Huh. Now, you're famed for doing all your stuff solo. You're never part of a team, are you? It's always Sean. Well, you got your little mascot, little cow.
Little flying cow,
flying cow. So you and your mascot, little flying cow, and I love the fact that I think it was on I forget which book it was in. I think it was the European or maybe it was in America, where you picked up like a skull of a bison or something, and you put it on your bicycle.
Oh yeah, no, for my Europe ride, I found Pedro, which was it was actually a dog skull, which I found on the I was on like day 3 in Spain, just gone from Portugal to Spain. Found this dog skull on the side of the road. He looked super lonely, and I was like, man, one day he's just been forgotten. Like, I felt bad. Like, this dog had been obviously run over like a decade ago. It was so bleached white. And no one had come to find it. You know, someone owned that dog. You know, how sad is that? So I thought, right, I'm going to take Pedro, put him on the front of my handlebars, and try and cross international borders with a dead animal later. But yeah, I took him all the way across Europe.
And you still broke the record. So you actually did it with 3 friends. You got Pedro, little flying cow, and yourself. But in all seriousness, you do these big things on your own. Is that I suppose the question is why? You know, why on your own and not part of a team?
I think I'm super particular in the way I deal with stuff. I think people would find me annoying because I'm a monkey terrier in my sort of personality. So like I'm a monkey like a lot of the time, and I'm like fidgeting for this, and I'm digging here, and I'm climbing here, and I'm picking this, and I'm tasting stuff, and you know, people find that super annoying because I'm like never focused. But then when I'm focused, then I'm terrier mode. Then I'm like blinkers, don't talk to me. My wife hates it because I'll be halfway through dinner and I'll see something like, I mean, what's a silly example? Like, oh man.
So you're supposed to get this squirrel moment. You're busy doing something, and then an opportunity or something comes in your peripheral vision, and you're like, oh, what's that? Yeah. That looks more interesting, and off you go.
I have to go and do it. Like, I have to go and do it. Like, and it might even just be an idea. Like the other day, this is a good example. So I'm sitting in dinner, and from our house we can sort of see, we've got a sort of terraced garden, and there's a fence at the top of our garden between our garden and a bit of derelict woodland type thing. And there's a little gap between 2 trees, and we've got a fence, and it's kind of falling down. And I'm sitting there, and there's like a pheasant on the other side of the garden while I'm having dinner. And in my head, I'm like, oh, the fence is stopping the pheasant coming into our garden. And I'm like, how cool would it be if I took that bit of fence down? It's just like this wide. It'll open. It'll mean the pheasant can come in the garden. It was a beautiful pheasant. I'll send you the picture later. I took a photo. It was amazing. And I just couldn't finish my dinner. I was like, I've got to go and open the fence. Like, the pheasant had gone already. Like, I'm going to chase it away by doing it. But just in my head, I was like, I just had this thing. I'm like, I have to go and open the fence. So I scoffed my dinner down. You know, Caroline had to go and bath Monty, and then all of a sudden I'm like there with the clippers trying to break my fence, and then at least I opened it. I'm like, sweet. And today the pheasant came in the garden. Yeah. So that's my problem. Like, I think when I do stuff with other people, and I've actually only ever traveled for a large time with one other person. I did India, Nepal, and Tibet 12 years ago with a friend of mine, and he found me quite annoying because I always just have, like, I'm flittering around, but then when I want something, I'm all in. You know, nothing else matters. So I think that's the main reason. I think no one would stand me, really.
Yeah, I think that's quite an interesting mindset for perhaps some of the stuff that you do, because you do come across a little bit scattergun. And that's one of the reasons why we all love you so much, because especially when you read your books, and most of your adventures have been unsupported. So you're very much having to wing where you sleep, where you eat. Your nutrition is much harder than it would be if you were supported, but you don't quite know where you're going to be able to stop to eat and hydrate and fuel. So I think that scattergun mentality potentially works very well on that. But then you've got to be super focused to get your miles done and to be able to get through the day-to-day grind that's got to go with these endurance challenges you undertake. So the combination of the two are probably perfect.
It works for me because I think if I was too if you don't plan something, you don't know if it's going wrong. So, like, the fact I'm a little bit scattery on some things kind of means I don't get super stressed about it when things aren't going well, because I didn't have a real steady plan. You know, because people ask me like, oh, when you're doing your Europe record, you know, where's night one? Where are you going to stay on night one? Where are you going to stay on night two? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, all I need is a 5 mile an hour headwind, and I'm, you know, 3 miles short of where I was going to be. Or if I have a 5 mile an hour tailwind, I'm going to be further. So actually, there's not much, you know, when it comes to that, you know. And, you know, what food are you going to eat? You know, in my head, if I planned this very important nutritional pie, you know, within the nutritional pie, you've got energy, recovery, and health. You know, within those, you've got all your optimum things. You know, you're never going to get that living off service stations in the middle of Russia, you know. So why plan it? You know, just go with it. And just what you should rather do is learn to be resourceful. Like when you go into a service station, I now know, right, crisps, good salt, good fat, good carbs, 520 grams per calories per 100 grams. It's pretty lightweight. You can buy a few, you poke a hole in the bag and let out the air, and you put them in your jersey back pocket, you know. And peanut butter, for example, a tub like this is 2,000 calories. You can get that down you pretty quickly and stuff. So rather learn how to deal with stuff that comes up rather than having this rigid plan that is inevitably probably going to go wrong, you know.
Yeah, I totally get that, and that, I think that's one of the reasons why. And I know I keep coming back to your books, but I do love them. I think it's one of the reasons why your books are so good, because they are full of anecdotal, I suppose, failures. You know, all these things that you do, and some catastrophic thing comes along, and you're like, oh God, Sean's got to deal with it again. Yeah. Or you read in the book and go, no, don't do that, Sean. And you're like, no, he's done it. I can't believe he's done that. And it's like, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Now, I get the impression from your books that, the books do give you the insight that you kind of think the best recovery is, you've been running all day, you find a pub. We're both quite fond of pubs. You find a pub, and your first course will probably be pizza or something like that, and your second course will be lasagna, or it might be chili con carne. They seem to be the three Sean Conway choices. Washed down, and I've noticed this, generally is always 2 pints of beer.
Yeah.
That's for you seems to work really, really well.
So because I'm self-supported and I'm usually doing long days, right? So I'm usually up at, I have this weird thing about alarms. I have to set my alarm at a random hour, at a random time. So if I'm pushing long days on the bike, for example, so in Europe, it was 3:58, I was getting up. And then I've given myself like 14 minutes to be out on the bike and going. And so I'm going through till about, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. On the Europe thing was a little bit different because I wasn't actually stopping to sit down and eat. But for example, when I did my round Britain triathlon, I could afford to sit down and go to the pub. So I usually do that around 8 o'clock at night. But then I would still do a slog from about 8 o'clock at night or after there till about 10, 11. And basically I was following the old school Tour de France sort of nutritional regime where they used to run in and grab bottles of wine because, well, one, they thought it was a painkiller, which it kind of is, but actually I find you still feel the pain, you just care less about it. And it definitely works. And also, it's 200 calories in a pint, and it kind of, again, it makes you take it a little bit more like lightheartedly that, yeah, you're doing a serious thing, but it's important to actually not take yourself too seriously in it. I will say, however, though, scientifically, it is proven that alcohol really does not do your performance any good. However, it can help your mind. At the end of the day, you're meeting people, you have a few, you go, cycle into the dark with a pint or two under your belly. You've got an extra 400, 500 calories as well within it. And it just kind of gets you on that little easier, makes your camping choices a little bit easier as well, because often you're like, whatever, I'll just sleep under the tree and fine.
That's great. And on your, I think this is true, on your run, your Great Britain run, which you did John O'Groats to Land's End, that's correct? Yeah. Because you did them each So the cycle was Land's End, John O'Groats. The run was John O'Groats, Land's End, and the swim was Land's End, John O'Groats.
Yeah, that's right.
So you went kind of there, back. On the run, I think I'm right in saying this, you took something like a 40-mile detour to cross into Wales to meet up with a friend, and you rolled into bed after what sounds like about 12 pints, 2 pies at 4 o'clock in the morning. Yet you still got up and ran the next day. That's
a marathon as well.
A marathon the next day, because you had some prior appointment in Bristol or something that you couldn't miss.
Yeah, that's the one. This is a good story, actually. So I'm running the length of Britain.
Yeah.
And stupidly, I didn't think about going into Wales. And I was like, I live in Wales now. I'm like, why did I not think about it? So I'm coming down from Cheltenham, and there's quite a famous guy who you don't want to have a drink with, and his name is Matt Pritchard, and he used to be in Dirty Sanchez. So if you've watched that, you'll know exactly what a pint with Matt is likely going to turn out to be. So he tweeted me and said, mate, you can't run Britain without coming to Wales. So I was trying to work out the maths, because I still had to be in Bristol for this event, because people had signed up to run with me on the Sunday. So I was like, I'm going to have to run 40 miles just to cross the bridge to Shepstow to meet Matt for a pint. So we got into this pub. So he met me on the bridge, and it was raining, and he was like, boyo, welcome to Wales. So we went to this pub, and anyway, we walked through the door, and Pritchard in Wales is like a celebrity, and literally the barman was like, whoa, it's Pritchard, oh my God, why? And then also because he's from Dirty Sanchez, everyone's just like, wait, drink. So anyway, we're sitting there, and we were having a few beers and, a few more beers, and eventually it's just like 11 o'clock, 11:30, he's like, right, guys, I'm sorry, I've got to close the pub. But no, you guys stay in, we'll just have a lock-in. We're like, oh, okay, cool, we'll stay for a few more. Anyway, it's like 12, then 1, then 2, then 3 in the morning. And then at like 3:30, the landlord's like, man, I got to get home. I've got a 6-month-old baby. My wife's going to kill me. And we're like, oh, man, I'm sorry. We'll just leave. Do you mind if we sleep in the pub garden? He's like, yeah, but you know what? You don't have to go now. Just actually, you can sleep on the floor, and here's a piece of paper and a pen. Just write down whatever you drink from now on and sort me out in the morning. So Matt was like, he jumped over the bar, he got a wine glass, and he's like, I'm having a Guinness in a wine glass because I can. We just, I think it was like 5:30 in the morning when eventually we just sort of slept on the pub floor. And then at 8:30, all I hear is, Conway, where are you? And I'm like, oh, what? Like, my life is over. And I knew I had to run 26 miles that day. Anyway, he's like, come on, boy, I'm going to run with you. And he had his dog Lemmy there as well. And he put a double Southern Comfort in front of me. And he's like, right, let's go. So we had that at 8:30 in the morning. And I'm like, oh, this is the worst decision I've ever made in my entire life. And we ran back over the bridge. And then we get halfway across the bridge, and this random French guy's there. He's like, Sean, I've come from France. I was like, what? He's like, I've hitchhiked for 3 days, can you believe it, to come and meet you. And he had this amazing story. So he literally hitchhiked from France. He was following my tracker. He knew I was on the Severn Bridge because I tweeted it, but he went to the wrong bridge. So, you can only run over the other one. So he was at the wrong bridge. So he ran into the road and stopped this old couple and said, can you take me to the other bridge? So they took him to the other bridge. And there he was, this random French guy. So it's like me and Matt, like just 2 sheets to the wind still, with this random French guy going, whoa, I'm here. We ran a marathon all the way into Bristol. I think we stopped at like another 2 pubs. I was like, nah, I'm on the water. Pritchard was still like, what are you on about, mate? This is like a standard day for me. We got into Bristol, and I was just like, oh my God. And he jumped on the train and went back to Wales. And the French guy was still there. He went to, I can't remember where we slept that night, but man, yeah, that was, yeah. I don't think anyone's run 40 miles with a rucksack just to have a pint with a Welshman, but it was good.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I love about sort of your adventure and challenges. There is despite the fact you're doing it on your own, there is a huge social element to it. Because when you got run over on your round the world challenge, you got hit by a car or truck in, whereabouts was it? It wasn't Texas, it was...
in Arkansas.
In Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then you ended up sort of convalescing with a local family, and you got really strong connections with them, and then you had the soul searching, do I continue or do I not continue? All the time staying through the generosity of these people that you've met on your journeys. And so in one way, you're doing it solo, but in reality, you get to meet far more people because you are on your own and you are forced to make conversation or interact with people who perhaps you wouldn't do if you were part of a team.
100%. And when you are on your own, you become more approachable. You know, if you're sitting in a bar or in a cafe or whatever by yourself, you have way more chance of someone coming up to you and going, "Oh, what are you doing?" Especially if you're a bit dirty and you've got some, you know, you've got a bike with you or a rucksack or something, right? Whereas if you're in a couple or a few people, you generally get left alone. So it does open you out when you do solo stuff. It opens you out to having more conversations and certain things. For example, you know, around the world was great because the mileage required was about 160 miles a day, and I was pretty fit. So that did allow a little bit of time before the accident to chat to people, but not a lot. But after the accident, when the record was off the cards, my mileage went way down to about 130 miles a day, which is, you know, that's sit down in a restaurant and have 3 meals a day type thing, and you can still do the mileage, right? So again, yeah, you know, you are meeting more people, and you know, you experience this. You know, 99.9% of the world are just want to live normal lives and go to work and earn some money and save for holidays and send their kids to school, and you know, just the grind, you know, like that's just life. It's fun, it's exciting, and that everyone's in that. Unfortunately, it's the peripheries that get all the voice, right? But yeah, you do. You meet loads of amazing people. Except when I did my Europe ride, I didn't meet one person.
Well, yeah, but I think that was slightly different because you were head down. Obviously, that's your latest book, and I read that last year, and it was the Terrier Focus, and the pictures of you along the ride. You know, you're getting more and more kind of zoned out, and you're looking thinner and dirtier because you just. Well, how long did it take? About I want to say
24 days in the end. Yeah, 24 and some change. And yeah, you're super sleep deprived. You know, on something that's super short. That's the shortest thing I've ever done by a long way. You know, after that was
it's 24 days, and that's the shortest challenge that you've done.
I only get good after 2 weeks. That's like my minimum.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now, and another bit that I love in your book is I keep referencing your book. I don't know why I keep doing this, but there's so many bits that I've always wanted to talk to you about. You got a police escort one
South
day
America.
It's in South America, and it sounded like you were quite paranoid about. Was it some drug runners were trying to bump you off?
I don't know, man. You know, so people stare at me everywhere in the world. I walk down the street in Wales, and people stare at me. I'm interesting looking, I guess. And this face in South America.
So do you think you're interesting, or does Sean Conway think he's good looking, and you just think people are staring and go, "Hey, that's a handsome guy"?
Definitely not. They're just going, "Oh my God, what's in that beard? Can I stick an Argos pencil in there?" And the answer is yes, you can. But, you know, cycling up the Pan American Highway, like everyone was just like, whoa, there's this weird, hairy, ginger guy, and they're hooting and waving, and it's such an amazing experience. Like the Pan Am is its own thing. It's a bit like going through the outback in Australia. Like it's so iconic, and people are so friendly because you're in the Atacama Desert, you know, like, it's stupid to cycle there. But, you know, there's enough stops. There's 70 miles between stops. You can carry loads of water. But anyway, I was in the Atacama. So again, it's just like me and a bit of boulders and just sand.
A whole lot of desert.
A whole lot of desert, man. And anyway, this car, I have mirrors on my bikes, right? So this car, I noticed like there's a car in the distance, and there's slightly undulating, and then I'd expect it to overtake me in a few minutes. And then I kind of, where is it? And it was way back, you know. And it was just hovering, and then it would come up quite close to me, like probably 100 meters, and it would just hang there and then way back. And then it would overtake me, and then the first thing I thought was weird is they didn't even look at me. They kind of almost looked away as if I didn't like want them to recognize them, or I don't know. But they basically they just drove past and didn't look at me. And I'm like, that's weird. Why would you not look at this crazy cyclist cycling through the Atacama Desert, right? So then I didn't think any of them. I thought, okay, it's fine. They went off, and then like about 10 minutes later, they were parked up on the side of the road. And then as soon as I was getting close up to them, they pulled off again. I was like, that's a bit weird. And then again, I came up to them, and this time they allowed me to pass. So I passed, and I kind of slowed down and looked in the window, and they didn't even look at me. They were still just sat on the side of the road, looking dead straight. I was like, man, this is weird. And then they came up to me again, and it was happening for about an hour. And I'm like, I think they probably would have just wanted to steal my bike or something. Like, I didn't feel like I was in danger, even though like a few hours before that, I went through a town and there was some guys who was giving me like the gun sign. They're like, yo, I was like, whoa, man. You know, I think they were just kids, you know, they were just joking, right? So anyway, I thought, right, I've heard, like I'd read Mark Beaumont's book when he cycled around the world, and he managed to get a bit of a police escort in a bit of Iran and Afghanistan. So I was like, well, maybe that's a thing. Like maybe you can like you just ask for one. I don't know. So I have 4 passports. So
you got 4 passports?
Like, right.
Whoa. Just back up. Talk me through 4 passports. 4 different nationalities?
Technically, yeah.
How does that work?
I was born in Zimbabwe, so Zimbabwe passport. My family was Irish, so from day one I've always had an Irish passport because my family came over from Ireland to Africa. So it's the passport I only use at the moment, the Irish one, because it's quite convenient. I then moved to South Africa with my family when I was 4 years old and got citizenship there. So I have a South African passport. And then British, which I've never actually applied for the actual physical passport, but it's there. And I now live in Wales. Just Wales have its own passport.
It kind of sounds like that might be a world record on passports. 4 passports. Anyway, so you're in the Atacama Desert. You're about to be bumped off by some drug runners.
So I'm like, well, I've got 4 embassies to call. This is sweet. So I'm like, Zimbabwe embassy where I was in Peru. So I was like, Zimbabwe embassy in Peru probably doesn't exist. So I didn't even bother. I phoned the British embassy, and actually they were amazing. Like they were super on it, man. So I was like, I said, listen, I'm a traveler. I'm abroad. I think I've got an issue with some people following me. Like I feel in danger. And they're like, sweet, no worries. We'll see what we can do. We'll get back to you. And literally like 10 minutes later, they said, right, we know where you are. Your nearest police station is this. Here's a private security firm. These are the costs if you want a guy with a gun. Like they were like, it's $100 a day for a guy with a gun to follow you. I was like, man, that would be so cool. But I just didn't have the cash. But yeah, I have to say they were absolutely amazing. But I thought I can't really afford like private security. It seems over the top. I then tried to phone the Irish embassy, and they had like really obscure opening hours. Like we're open Wednesday and Thursday from 10 till 11 or something. I don't know. And then my last hope was the South African embassy. And I was like, well, I mean, what are the chances? But I got to give them a call. So I phoned them up and I told them my situation. And you know what it's like, you know, sometimes you get through to the right person on the right day. Absolutely. And it turns out that the woman who answered the phone, her son was big into cycling. And she was like, oh, wow, that's cool. And she happened to know someone in the chief of police personally. So she said, don't worry, we'll sort you out. And literally like half an hour later, I had this police car coming up behind me with sirens blazing. And then they come up next to me and they're like, cyclists, go, go, go. And they had a text message on their phone, which I couldn't read. It was in Spanish. And it was amazing. So for like 2 days, as I was coming into Lima when it was like super populated. So the first day, they would do 2-hour sections, you know, 2 hours on, and then another police car would come. And then these guys would, you know, wave and go off. And then the other 2 were there and we'd stop and I'd buy them lunch and things like that. And then at the end of the night, they were like, right, you need to go. You know, I got to a town where I was going to stay in a cheap hotel, and they said, oh, just go to the police station and tell them that you're there. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So that was day one. I thought, well, sweet, I've got an escort. I'm fine now. I should be fine. But yeah, the next day I got up early, and a few hours later they came and found me. They're like, oh, we found you. We're following you again. And man, they were like pulling over trucks that were overtaking me too closely. I felt bad. Like, you know, I've had close misses in my time, and these trucks were fine. But obviously they were just, I think, you know what? And without trying to be patronizing or rude to the Peruvian police, but I think the highway patrol, they just kind of got excited about doing something different than standing under a tree and trying to trap speeding people, you know. So But yeah, it was amazing, you know, and it just shows that sometimes you just right place, right time, you know.
No, I love that. I think that's a brilliant story. I think it's absolutely fab. Now, coming back, because somebody's going to ask, and you know, we all to a certain extent like our tech and our geek and things like that. Now, when it comes to tech stuff, the mapping and the Garmin's, I'm a complete Luddite, but I do like my cycling. So I just want to delve a little bit into your setup for the European ride, because by then you've got your system pretty dialed, haven't you? You had a bike you essentially built yourself. So if you just quickly talk us through that, and then what you were carrying, and you know, how much it weighed, etc. I just like a little rundown about what that beast was like.
Yeah, so for the latest Europe record, which was 2 years ago now, but it's the last big ride I did, I went back to a steel frame bike. So I developed my own sort of bike range with a guy called Simon Stanforth down in Brighton.
I love the way I love the way you just dropped that. I developed my own bike range.
It's super niche. I think we've only sold about 5 or 6, but it was such an ego project, you know. Like Simon came to me and he said, mate, you know, I know how to make bikes. You like riding them. Why don't we create, you know, if you had to create a bike, what would it be? And I said, why don't we create this concept of a performance touring bike? So there's people who want to go touring, but they want to do it fast and they want to carry lightweight gear. So we sort of spent a couple of years coming up with the geometry, a bit of a more race geometry with nice Reynolds 853 tubing.
Oh, nice.
And it's beautiful. And it just rides so sweet. So I went back with steel. I had disc brakes with carbon rims. I've got these amazing old Reynolds wheels I've had for years, and I just trust them. I know they're bulletproof, so I go with them. And then I had a simple setup. I had sort of 3 panniers, one on the front, and one on the back, and a little one in the middle on the sort of fuel tank bar. And I went pretty lightweight. I didn't take a tent for Europe, which I never take a tent. Every time I'm number crunching the maths and weighing everything by gram, a tent comes in. I have, well, it used to be the world's lightest tent is 500 grams. I just can't justify it. I'm like, 500 grams? I just like, that's a bottle of water, a small bottle of water. So I never take a tent, and then I always regret it because I have to I lose so much sleep because I'm trying to sleep in underground sewers and, you know, drain pipes and whatever. So I don't know. Because also, I'm not saving 500 grams. I'm only saving 300 grams because I'm taking a 200 gram bivvy, which I usually.
I mean, you surely take a bivvy tarp or something.
Yeah. I take a bivvy just as an emergency in case it rains, and also I use it as a ground sheet if the weather's good. And in fact, for my whole Europe ride, I only had 2 nights where it rained, and the rest of the time I didn't even have to put get in my bivvy. Wow. Because that wasted 3 minutes, trying to get in the bivvy, it's so, you know, you're trying to wrap it up, and you know, 3 minutes a day, that's 20 minutes. You know, I only broke the record by 20 minutes a day, so I'm stealing minutes here and there. The irony though is you mentioned Pedro that I took across Europe. He weighs 287 grams.
I love it.
I know. See, that's these 2 sides of my brain. You know, this is like the monkey and the terrier fighting each other constantly. So I took a bivvy, a lightweight camping mat, a pretty lightweight sleeping bag. I only took 1 set of clothing, 1 set of socks. So every time if I could, if I stopped for 10 minutes, I would try and wash my socks, but it never really worked. But at night, I would take them off, and I'd actually put the socks into my shorts, with my cycling shorts, which would help them dry out. I would treat myself to 1 hotel a week, and I would mainly just to wash all the salt out my clothing. So I'd go into a shower with my clothes on, get the salt off, take my clothes out, lay a towel out, roll the clothes in the towel and stand on it. And then I'd actually have to put my clothes back on to sleep in them wet so that they would be dry in the morning, because that was a far better deal than having to put on wet clothes in the morning and trying to cycle at 4 a.m. when it's 2 degrees outside, right? So it's much better to sleep with wet clothes. And in the morning, they're dry. It's amazing. A wrung out, cycling outfit is fully dry in the morning. So I did that. But then at the front is my cockpit area. And I have tested everything under the sun. I once even For years, actually, I went with this system. I had a plant pot. The ones that you stick on a wall. So they have a flat back and a rounded front.
I've seen pictures of your setup, and the term a flight deck that's exactly what it is. It's I try to get a picture and stick it on. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, it's my cockpit, and in there. So the reason I went with the plant pot is if I saw food in front of me, I felt I was more inclined to eat it. Because I was finding that, like, food in my jersey back pocket, I would kind of forget was there, and then I wouldn't eat it, and then I'd just carrying extra weight for nothing. So I had this plant pot idea for a while, and it kind of worked, but I found it, like, I'd hit bumps and it would fly out, and like I'd lose 25 calories of nuts, and that would annoy me for the rest of the day, and and that sort of thing. So eventually for this one, I just kept food. I'd eat more actually when I stopped and keep it in my jersey back pocket, and that kind of, it worked for this Europe ride. But then, in front of me, I like to keep it simple, actually. I don't run with a heart rate monitor. I don't run with any super high tech. For Europe ride, all I had was just an old, those old wired cycle computers, which would told me my daily distance, because I knew how many miles I needed to do each day to keep record pace, because I had done in the past. I have run with a heart rate monitor. I've run with a power meter. I've run with your sort of average speed, the gradient you're going at, the temperature it is. And like, that's all good when things are good. But like when things aren't going well, it's just numbers screaming at you. And
and you can get really focused on it. I mean, I'm similar. I don't run, I don't climb with an altimeter or anything like that, because I find I can get a little bit hyper-focused. And like you say, it's great when it's going well. Yeah. But when it's not going well, you can really focus on it and start stressing on it. And in reality, it's more often than not, how do you feel right now? Yeah. And that is, I think, a key thing for anything that is endurance-based, is how do you feel? And if you can get that bit right, then you're 4/5 of the way there.
And you focus. So I have a thing called the 5 pistons of endurance. I'm focusing. If things aren't going well, instead of like focusing on the numbers, I go back to basics, and it's 5 things: food, water, sleep, muscle management, and motivation or mindset. Those are the 5 pistons of endurance that I try and get on top of, All
right, I'm going to contradict you here, but I went on your website earlier, and you've got 6.
Planning at the beginning.
There we go, planning. Yeah.
So you got planning at the beginning. So there are 6. There's 6 pistons, but the planning one is usually before you're getting to the start line.
Obviously.
And then once you're on the road, it's food, water, sleep, muscle management, mindset. And you take those super seriously, like, how much water do I need? How much salt do I need to get that water to absorb into my body? How much water do I need to carry? Because the more water you carry, the slower you're going to go, which means you're going to need more water. It's like a downhill spiral, right? Nutrition, what do I need? I need energy, recovery, and health. We always forget the health one, right? Because we're all so focused on energy and recovery. We forget like your antioxidants and your vitamins and things like that. So sometimes fresh food, lower calorie fresh food can sometimes be better than high calorie processed food and stuff like that. Sleep. How much sleep am I getting? Did I have a good sleep last night? Did I have a bad sleep? Did I have too much sleep? Did I have too little sleep? All these sort of things. And that depends on how much I pushed it the day before, what heart rate, and even though I don't have a heart rate monitor, I'm feeling it in my head. If I'm doing a lot of climbing, I'm trying to like manage my power just so my heart rate's not like bouncing out my chest. And then muscle management, how are my legs feeling? What are the little niggles? As the tiniest little thing now in 3-4 days time is a showstopper, and it's just stretching those out. And, I was using, the crash barriers on the side of motorways. They've got that double lump, I was using those. They're great for like rubbing your thigh up and down, it looks pretty dodgy from a passing motorist, but it's great, and because they're a bit smooth and wet, so you can like especially if it's rained a bit, you can really get it right into your ITB, man.
You often travel with a tennis ball as well, don't you? You kind of use a tennis ball as a massage ball.
Yeah, Wilson. So I have real issues with my right leg. I broke my left leg as a kid, and then just biologically I've become right leg dominant. And it's just habit, it's getting in and out of the car, getting off the sofa, getting out of bed, carrying your shopping. I'm just super right leg dominant. and I tend to overuse my right leg when I cycle and run. Like I've got two different calf, like on my left leg, my upper calf muscle is super strong, and on my right leg, my lower calf muscle is super strong. So I'm a bit off balance, and the one leg's longer as well. But you got to notice those little things, you know, like what's my ankle doing? What's it doing in the cleat? You know, I was finding that my right ankle was swiveling out on every rotation, and that was causing my knee to drop in. I'm like, nah, you got to, again, keep your technique, you know, just focus on the pistons for cycling especially, and for running, you know, like just try and focus on their technique and get it like muscle memory, just get that technique so you don't have to think about it, you know. And you know, so that's your muscle management. And then things like ice baths, you know, I've done silly things. Like I once asked a fisherman, I was when I was doing my Coast of Britain triathlon, there was a fisherman throwing away his ice. You know, he'd been out fishing and they take ice. Yeah. When they get in, they just throw it overboard. And he was like, oh, I was like, whoa, ice bath. I was just like opportunist. I was like, mate, this sounds weird, but do you have a bucket that I can throw that ice in and with water that I can sort of soak in? Oh, it was disgusting. On the corner of the pontoon was this like fishy, netty, like blue bucket. You know the ones I mean?
Yeah.
Blue bucket.
Disgusting.
And I took all the nets out and it was disgusting. But I threw the ice in it and I just sunk into this fishy stench. And I was just like, oh man, like I'm not going to be able to go to a pub tonight. But it worked, you know? So like ice baths, and like I've done the cold river thing in Scotland, and that's kind of super easy to do and that sort of thing. But yeah, so that's muscle management. And then mindset, motivation, you know, what's keeping you going. Often if the other four are sort of like firing, if you've had good sleep, good food, good water, but it's pretty rare. Like on my Europe ride of 25 days, I reckon I had 3 days when all five were like really firing, you know, because inevitably something's going wrong. But within the mindset thing, and the other thing I like to do is I call them like carrots. You like, what carrots have you dangled in front of yourself to keep you going, you know? And little things like, you know, for example, it's audiobooks. You know, what audiobooks have I downloaded, or what podcasts have I downloaded? And they kind of act as carrots because they kind of take your mind away from the pain and they kind of keep you going. You know, are you raising money for charity? You know, for me, a big one at the moment is like, I just want to do stuff that makes my son proud of me. Like I want my son to be like, "Well, Dad, you're super cool." Although you'll probably tell me, and everyone tells me that actually no teenagers think their father's cool anyway. So
yeah. Well, we're a little way off teenage years yet in the Cool household, but yeah, we're a little bit older than Monty. How old is Monty now? 6 months, 7 months?
11 months now.
11 months now.
Wow. Yeah, time flies, eh?
Yeah, time does fly. Now, Sean, I mean, I could chat to you all night long. We haven't even touched on the swim. So, I mean, the swim, what was epic, but you thought it would take a month or thereabouts?
I thought it would take 2 months.
And it took you nearly 5.
Nearly 5, yeah.
So listen, we don't have time to dive into that today. We'll be here all night. I mean, we've got to land this one at some stage. And I suppose one of the things that I've really enjoyed listening to is the way that you. I'm trying to think. I saw you described as the Forrest Gump, you know, the British Forrest Gump, which I thought was borderline rude. I mean, you're not. You have this lovely eccentricity to you, which I just find beautiful. And I love the way that merges into your adventures. So when you first attempted John O'Groats Land End running, you were there with like a canvas rucksack. I remember seeing a picture going, what is he doing?
It was actually leather.
It was leather rucksack. I just had visions of it chaffing your shoulders. But yeah. I love that degree of, I was about to say British quirkiness, but I mean, you're from Zimbabwe, you got 4 passports, I don't quite know how you describe it, but you bring your own special imprint into these challenges, and I think that's one of the reasons why I love you so much for it. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Like, it was important for that to because a lot of people are held back, I think, and I presume this is really prevalent in mountaineering, by going, oh, I don't have the best kit, right? You know, like people go, oh, I can't run Britain because I don't have this 200-pound super lightweight rucksack, and I don't have these 300-pound running shoes, and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, when I did my Round Britain triathlon, you know, people are like, oh, but, you know, if 10,000-pound Tour de France carbon bike, of course you can do it. That's why I chose to do it on a bamboo bike, you know.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was brilliant.
You know, and that's why I went originally with that leather rucksack, which in the end was a stupid idea. Not the fact, well, it was stupid because when it rains, it just got super heavy. It was like 2 kgs when it was wet. But actually it was comfortable. It didn't have a waistband. I think when you want to do a long run, you need a waistband as well. But again, I was just trying to show people in my weird way, and like, you don't have to have the best kit in the world. You just got to have the will and a little bit, you know, think outside the box, be a bit creative, and just like, you will cope. Like we can all cope way more than we think. And we, you know, just don't let things like fancy kit and all that hold you back from doing it, because it's a non-reason, you know, it's a non-reason.
And I think you really summed it up there. I mean, in this environment that we currently find ourselves in, and you know, you're in Wales, it's still quite a hard lockdown, we're beginning to ease. We can cope, and we have coped. And I think for now, you know, on behalf of all of you, Sean, I'd like to say thank you for your time. You are a beautiful person, and I think that you have shown us all that you don't need to conform to be able to do these amazing things. I think we get almost hijacked by thinking we need to conform with society and what people expect of us to be able to go out into the big wide world and do these amazing things. And you know, I mean, it's the nicest possible way. You don't conform, and that's why we love you. So Sean, you know, from all of us listening and watching today, thank you for your time. I just very quickly want to highlight, because again, I was on your website, and one of your runs, I think it was one of your runs, the charity you were raising money for, and I don't know if you still do, was, I can't find it now, War Child. And I had a quick look at that charity, and again, I think that just shows the depth of what a beautiful person you are, because I went into that website, and that's quite tugs at your heartstrings, especially if you've got children, like I know, you know, we both do. So yeah,
it's super important. You know, the stuff. You know, Africa needs a lot of help. They got so many problems. You know, being born there, growing up there, I've seen firsthand all this, and there's loads of problems. It's not just war. It's famine. It's water. You know, clean water. You know, there's not. The other charity I raised money for was Solar Aid, getting rid of kerosene lamps because they're spending 30% of their salary on that. So yeah, Africa, like African charities, are super, super important for me to just help out, because I can, you know, I'm in a position to. So it'd be silly not to, you know. Well,
Sean, from me, I'm humbled to be able to call you a friend. I salute you for pretty much everything that you've done and everything that you do. And I really look forward to sitting down, having just 1 or 2 beers. I don't want like an all-nighter like you did with Pritchard. But Sean, we really appreciate your time. Stay strong, stay sane, and we see you soon.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant.
Catch you later.
Whoa, that was Sean Conway. I could talk to Sean all night long. I think that's going to be one of the longest cool conversations we have. If you ever come across him on one of his adventures or one of his challenges, and he's in a pub, you know, buy him a pint and sit down with him. You will not regret it. And more than just that anecdotal storytelling, there are so many gems in there, so many little takeaways about, you know, the mindset and the planning. I love it. And he's such a relaxed guy. And one of the things that he's so humble as well, one of the things that he didn't mention, he's got this fantastic film out about his European cycle record, and it's called Sean Conway, Europe or Bust. You can find it on Amazon or on Vimeo. So check that out. It's quite an interesting insight into what it takes to do some of these madcap enduro challenges. And as Sean said, it's the shortest one he's ever done, and that's 24 days. The guy is brilliant. So thank you for that one, Sean. Now, don't forget why we do this. All our content on Cool Conversations is free for your entertainment, but we are in the Barn Theatre here in Cirencester, and despite the easing of lockdown, it is still bleak times for establishments such as the Barn Theatre. So if you do have the inclination, if you have the means, please do donate. You will find at the end of the show the various avenues that you can go to take you to the Barn website where you can click and donate online. Every single penny will help save our barn. So from me, Kenton Cool, the end of yet another Cool Conversations. I think this might be number 11 now. I lose count after 10 fingers. I think it's number 11, but thank you for tuning in. We'll see you same time next week, same place on Cool Conversations. Remember, we're in it together, we'll get it done together. Thanks, guys.